Hi there, I'm Caroline Fisher. I'm just waiting for Holly Stevenson to join me to talk about her work this afternoon. So, effectively, this is a clay conversation. Normally, these take place in my gallery in Norwich, 93 Upper St Giles Street. And this afternoon, I'm just doing this on Instagram, and Holly Stevenson has kindly agreed to chat to me just as if we were in the real gallery. So I hope we'll get some viewers. The exhibition was due to have taken place from the 21st of March to the 23rd of May. Obviously, it's not happening now, but most of the work has been installed. So hopefully at some point it'll be possible to have the exhibition. So I'm just about to go live with Holly, and let's hope she's there. She's just going to appear any moment now, I hope. Hi, Holly. Hello.
Hello, Caroline.
Really good to see you.
Yeah, you too, in this funny old world of
I know,
Instagram.
the old world, but lovely weather as well. At least we can get some sunshine, get our vitamin D.
Yeah, that's true. As long as the police don't take you out the park for sunbathing.
Yeah, yes, don't go to Greenwich Park.
How are you?
Yeah, really well. And you?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
okay.
I see you've brought one of your sculptures to join us.
I have. I've got a friend here, Ode to Juno Way, which was supposed to be part of the South Bermondsey Art Trail, with run by kindly by Sid of Sid Motion Gallery, but that got cancelled too. But that will be
Yeah.
happening in August.
Oh, great. I'll look
Yeah,
out for that.
yeah.
Anyway, yes, let's just launch into our clay conversation by, first of all, can I just ask you to introduce yourself and say a little bit about yourself and how you came to be involved in ceramics, really?
Well, my name's Holly Stevenson, and I work with ceramics. And how did I end up working with ceramics? I, my love of ceramics was definitely caused by my dear friend Anya. I can't see Anya. I don't think she's joined us, but yeah, Anya Lubak, who taught me how to make ceramics when I attended her adult education class in Greenwich. Yeah, so that was my beginnings, my very beginnings.
Yeah, fantastic. And before that, um, what was your art training?
I studied art history at Glasgow, which was very traditional, really, looking back on it. Lots of medieval churches and going round collections and spending my time looking at slides. But then later on, I did the masters at Chelsea. Um, And yeah, I mean, I've always experimented with making sculpture at some level. I also worked as a set designer, which is intrinsically is making sculpture, but for a different reason. But yeah, I mean, I've made used all kinds of materials: jelly, lard, paper pulp, wood. Um,
Fantastic.
yeah,
So when
but
you were experimenting with lots of different ways of working. And did you start using clay when you were at Chelsea, or was it
no,
after
I
that?
didn't. Sadly, I didn't. There's actually a fantastic clay workshop at Chelsea, but I was always really worried about making objects that I might then have to deal with somehow. I was more interested earlier on in my career of making things that are ephemeral, that could be flat packed or put away somehow, cleaned up. So really, I focused very much on using collage techniques.
Yeah, I mean, I showed some of your collage work in an exhibition at East Gallery in Norwich a few years ago, and that was amazing. I really enjoyed your
Yeah,
collage.
yeah.
I
I mean,
remember that
I
becoming
don't know
more
if you
and
can.
more kind of embroiled in working with ceramics, which was really exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, I don't know if you can see a link between my collage pieces and my ceramics. I personally can, but I think in many ways, like all those collages I made of well, they were very much about putting an object into another space. So in a way, they had a sculptural content, but not in the same way as ceramics. I mean, with ceramics, once I sort of spent a month on making a piece, I knew there was no going back. I didn't want to destroy it. I wanted to keep it somehow, and I wanted to keep working with it. So it was a material from that point of view that was very different to working with paper, which is so easily scrunched up or discarded or flat packed
Yeah.
away, really.
And I suppose when you're at college as well, when you were at Chelsea, things had to be quite portable, and ceramics is not that portable, is it?
Mm.
As
No,
I've
it's
discovered since I've been running my gallery, I often go on these journeys to pick up people's work and suddenly think, oh, am I going to fit it all in my car?
yeah, or even just packing ceramics. I mean, it's just crazy. Yeah, ceramics are definitely, it's definitely clay is definitely a material about making objects. And I'd also argue, I mean, historically, primarily about making vessels.
Sorry, making.
Making vessels,
Yes,
making containers, making receptacles, making something to put something else in.
definitely. And actually, some of your sculptures do have a sort of vessel-like element to them, don't they? But maybe we'll come to that in a minute. So I was going to just
Sure.
ask next um, a little bit about the body of work that you are showing in my gallery at the moment. Sadly, of course, we can't have it in front of us and um, look at particular pieces, but maybe you can just talk a little bit about how you came to make that body of work and the sort of materials, the starting point, and how the body of work sort of developed, I suppose, because there are, what, about 10 or 12 pieces.
I can't remember. That's terrible, isn't it? How many pieces exactly? Yes, there's about 10 or 12 pieces and they're in varying size.
Actually,
Okay.
there are
So,
14. Sorry, I'm just looking at the list of
but
works.
there's
So
two small
12,
ones.
12 full-size pieces and two small ones,
Yeah.
yes.
So the work that's currently under lockdown in Caroline Fisher project basically involves I'd say all my favorite characters. There's Medusa, there's Narcissus, there are clouds, there are peeping sort of anthropomorphic flowers, there's a charmer, there's a mama who's dressed with her glitzy jewelry and fancy apron and bow. Um, so this particular body of work that I work towards making for the show is very much about fictional characters, if you like, and they don't just come from one story or one book or one anything really. They come from lots of different places, and I think some of them, you know, probably get on better with others and others kind of stand alone, but essentially the feeling was very much about working with working with uncomfortable bodies, if you like, or beautifying bodies somehow.
Yes, they're often quite embellished, aren't they, with kind of jewelry or flowers.
Yeah.
But also some of the themes are very psychological, and you refer to classical myths quite often, don't you? So Narcissus looking in a pool at his reflection, Narcissus and Echo, and then that also links to some sort of psychological ideas around Sigmund Freud and that sort of thing. But yeah, so I find the titles really intriguing. They really suck you in and make you wonder, actually, how does this semi-abstract form and quite suggestive form relate to the title? And sometimes it's quite clear, and other times it's not so clear. But I think that in itself is fascinating, that you look for links back to the title in the work, and in the kind of motifs. I suppose you use similar motifs such as flowers or chains. I love the chains that you use.
Thank you. Yeah,
But
titles are a funny one, aren't they? I mean, I'd say the best ceramicist titles are probably My Two Perrette, and her work is definitely abstract, but the titles are so poetic that they just explain everything. They explain her kind of her thoughts when she's making, and I try with the titling to explain my thoughts about the piece somehow when I, through the making process, but do I do think with the slightly more figurative ones that the titles do somehow make sense. So
Yeah.
Narcissus is definitely very phallic and is always drooping into the pot somehow. There's an element of the reflection within the pot
Yes.
of him.
I love that idea as well that you mentioned earlier about vessels and the Narcissus pieces, they have a vase-like element to them. So Narcissus is looking into the pool, and often that sort of vessel-like element is quite highly glazed, quite reflective already in terms of the
Mm-mm.
glaze. And then you could put water in it and maybe put flowers in it. So it all adds to the metaphor. I really think that's very clever.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, Narcissus is a great subject for anybody that's interested in mirroring or reflection or the double, which again is a great psychological subject to explore. And I suppose that Narcissus somehow makes sense to me because of the sort of the origins of my ongoing project. I mean, most sculptors have tried to get rid of the plinth, but if you like, I've made the plinth the foundation to my work. Taking on Sigmund Freud's ashtray, and that in a way has become the vessel, has become the plinth, has become the basis or the legs for my female characters, or yeah.
Yes, I was going to ask you about Freud's ashtray because I know that that was an important starting point for the piece She's Unstoppable and then for some of the other ones afterwards. But yeah, I love the Freud Museum, and I know that that was somewhere that really influenced you as well. So how did you first come to go to the Freud Museum, and what was it that interested you about it?
I can't, this is really strange, but I can't remember the first time I went there. But I unashamedly love that house. I loved it so much that I volunteered for them.
Oh,
And
really?
I spent about six
Great,
months
just more time
volunteering.
there. You just wanted to
Yeah,
time.
I think they're quite used to strange people just turning up. I mean, it's just, I mean, the director, she's wonderful. They're so generous. And I just wanted to know the collection inside out because,
Yeah, they get lots of artists as well wanting to volunteer there because it's the collection is so rich as well, isn't it? I was looking
yeah,
at their collections pages to find that exact ashtray, and there are actually 4 or 5 different ashtrays that he collected.
he had five, I believe, but the green one was his favorite because it's on the right hand side of the desk closest to where he would have smoked, and it's the one that still has a cigar in. But
Ah,
on in the catalogue, it's known as green dish, green jadeite Russian dish. So it
right,
doesn't
yeah,
actually come under the category ashtray. How boring
yeah.
is that?
I know it's a shame, isn't it? But it's a beautiful thing, and as you point out in some of your writing, it's a kind of ovular shape, which is quite interesting. It's this egg-like shape, um,
Yeah,
and in the sculpture, She's Unstoppable. It's green and it has these slightly phallic, sort of cigar-like shapes with faces on the end, um, which is really creepy. But
yeah. Oh, thank you, Caroline. I think that piece really quantifies, if you like, my project probably most simply in the sense that yes, it contains the ovular form and the cylindrical phallic cigar, which are the two forms that I continually use within my work that I expand and I play upon and I make interact with each other in a very sort of gendered way, because in
mm,
my way of thinking I believe that the oval is female and a receptacle and something to be looked upon as a vessel and almost like a motherly type thing that holds things together,
yeah.
and whereas the cigar is this phallic male probing object. I mean, sometimes it can become something other in the work, but generally it remains something on the outside, something
Yeah.
attached.
And on the whole, the female forms, these sort of ovular vessel-like forms, kind of surrounding the male in a way. They're kind of taking in the rest of the sculpture. They're I don't know. It feels like the feminine wins in your sculptures.
I think the female is more predominant. I mean, I definitely gender my sculpture. I don't know if I've said that already, that to me they're either female or male. So I definitely make more females than I make males. And um, but I think, I mean, art is guilty of exploiting the female body. I guess like everywhere, like other like, well, just in general, people exploit the female body, but this female body's so beautiful. It's so voluptuous. It's in a way, it's so much nicer to make than a male body.
Yes, yeah. But at the
So
time, there isn't, although there are references to body parts, there aren't any whole bodies in your work, are there? There are kind of suggestions.
no.
There's curviness and voluptuousness, but there aren't any whole bodies. And yeah, it makes me think of the piece that's in front of you there, which has these sort of bodily suggestions, but actually it's an assemblage of different elements with these different colours. So yeah, I mean, colour is obviously quite. Oh, hello.
Yeah, no, for me, color, when, as I'm sure you know, because you make ceramics too, and when anything comes out of the bisque firing, it's always this pasty white, ghostly creature.
Yeah.
And yeah, the glaze for me is definitely about dressing form. So I use color in different ways to make the forms attached to one another, to distinguish them from each other. For
Mm.
me, that's the very exciting thing that glaze can do. It can delineate
Yes.
forms. And
But you kind of redraw the pieces after they're bisque fired, is that right? And kind
yeah,
of that make the decisions about colours at that point rather than right at the beginning. So
oh,
it's
definitely, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I make my work always in the same way. I do these very quick automatic drawings that come from dreams, and they're always just pencil on paper. And
mm,
I make exactly the form that I've drawn for. So I end up with all these really scrotty drawings with clay spilt all over them. And then once I've done that, generally after I've bisque fired the piece, I always high bisque fire so I don't get any disappointing cracks in glaze fire. After I've high bisque fired, I then redraw the piece, and I spend time with coloured pencils or watercolour to work out how exactly I'm going to glaze. Yeah.
yeah. Actually, somebody in advance of us talking today sent a question which was about your construction process. So maybe we can just go back a step to the sort of the making process in clay. So you use stoneware, I know that, and you use a combination of different techniques, but how exactly do you go about creating these amazing forms?
Um, Patience. The bigger ones, it's funny, time-wise, they take a while because clay, as you know, has to have a certain amount of water in to let to let you join more clay to it. But at the
Mm,
same time, building forms takes a really long time. So because if a form is too wet, then it will just collapse. So it's a case of drying things really, really slowly and then attaching them just at the right moment so they all hold up. So a
yeah.
piece can take up to 4 weeks.
Wow. And there must be an awful lot of meticulous wrapping up in plastic in between
Mm.
as well. And
Dressing, more dressing.
yes.
Yeah, no, often my table looks like these sort of strange polythene bagged, yeah, mounds. It's quite,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you've referred to the glazing process as almost like dressing as well.
Oh,
So
definitely.
clothing your sculptures in colour and texture. And some of them you use really interesting glazes, not just flat colours, but sometimes a kind of juxtaposition of luster, kind of metallic effects, and then really splodgy ones and quite matte glazes. So that must be really fun to experiment with. Do you get kind of accidents that happen sometimes that you're either pleased with or not so pleased with?
Oh, definitely. Glazing's a never-ending process, and it's been the hardest part of learning how to make ceramics because it's so chemical, and things. Some glazes really work well together, and others just don't. They're just a complete failure. And then also, it some glazes are really kind to complicated forms. They'll happily stick to them during the firing, and others just all just sloop off somewhere and you're left with these horrible white patches. So it's been a real learning curve. You know,
Yeah,
I think anybody who's ever experimented with ceramics understands that it's a slow process.
takes a
But
long
I
time. Yeah.
mm,
And what's your kind of studio routine like? Because I know you're in a really interesting studio complex,
Oh,
aren't you?
I
With other.
love my studio. The Ceramic Studio Co-op is an amazing place. It's dedicated only to people making ceramics or teaching ceramics, and it's run by Anna and Tatiana. Um, and I try to work 4 or 5 days a week. And my ideal day is I go in really early and I leave around about 2, 3 o'clock. So yeah, I mean, it's a great place to be, and being surrounded by people who are really invested in working in clay is brilliant. There's just so many different technical things going on all the time. It's yeah,
Yeah.
it's good, really good.
Firing and use of kilns. You share kilns, do you?
Yeah, we do. The kilns belong to Tatiana, and she fires all our work for us, which
Okay.
is yeah, we
Yeah.
don't fire our own work.
But it must
But
be
we have obviously
fantastic.
a say in the process, so we
Yeah.
can.
Yes, because you have to decide what temperature you're firing to and that sort of thing. So, um, yeah, but it must be really fascinating to see what other ceramicists are doing in the same co-op and what sort of glazes they're using, what temperatures they're firing to, what clay bodies they're using.
Yeah, no, definitely. And also, um, oh, I don't know quite how to put this, just the sheer range of work. So, Tristan makes animals, Ella is making dinner sets, Fred makes politically active gay work. My friend Sandra makes shoes. Another friend of mine, Karen, is always experimenting. She makes like not wind times, how can I describe them? She made all these pieces that go on the wall. Yeah, I mean the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And just finally, because we're kind of coming to the end of our time, and if anyone wants to ask any questions, by the way, then please do write them in the comments. Um, where do you think your ceramic practice is going to take you in the future? And I know that you can't really get to your studio at the moment because of the lockdown, but when you can, what are you going to do? What will be the first thing that you do when you get back in
Everything. I'm going to do everything. Oh, my ceramic bucket list is endless. I want to do raku. I need to learn how to throw on the wheel properly. There's so many things I want to do, but if I have to say only one thing, I'm during lockdown. I'm making this series of drawings, sisters, if you like, of the Mary that's in the gallery at the minute. These sort
Oh,
of
lovely.
very female figures, and I'm going to make those. I think that's the first thing I'm going to do. And I've also got this clay that's been sitting in my studio, which I want to make these figures jewelry from. It's a black Vulcan clay, which isn't particularly healthy, but still. But it'll fire to a similar range that my clay goes to.
So
So
will you be trying it with your current
I'm
clay?
I will try, and it'll probably fail, but I'll also make jewelry pieces for them, which will obviously still be malleable, will still be like moving parts at bisque, but then when I glaze them, they'll just adhere.
Fuse together.
Mm,
Oh, that sounds brilliant. That's something
that's
to
my
look forward
plan. Thank you.
to. Oh, well, I think we'll close now, but thanks ever so much, Holly. It's been really great talking to you, and I hope people have enjoyed it. I know Lydia has. Lydia has put a
Hi,
comment saying,
Lydia.
really enjoyed this, you two. So, hi, Lydia. You're next up.
Brilliant.
So yes, I'll be talking to Lydia Hardwick hopefully next week. But thank you everybody who's tuned in, and thank you, Holly. Enjoy your
Oh,
half
thank you, Caroline. Yeah,
Speak to
you
you soon.
too. Bye. Take care. Bye,
Bye. Bye.
everyone. Thank you. Bye.